welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, and as we travel around Williamson County again and look at some of the programs we've got and the people that we've got and the services that we provide, we've got a good show for you today. We've got Matt Purdy here with our EMA, our director, and Todd Horton is coming over from Franklin City. I hope they don't try to make you feel bad when you go back to the city over there. But we have a great relationship. In fact, that leads us into some of the discussions we want to have today are the relationships that we have between Franklin City and Brentwood and Williamson County and all of our cities. But before we go down that journey, Mac, tell us a little bit about you and your history. You've been on the show before, but a lot of people see your face around the county and probably think, well, how did he ever get involved in that? What was your history? How did you get to this point in life?
Certainly. I grew up here in Williamson County, Bethesda Elementary, and graduated from CPA on the north side and stayed in town and went to Vanderbilt and just never left. Through my scouting background, and then joined the Williamson County Rescue Squad as a volunteer firefighter for a few years, which is actually where I first met Todd. And then...
Does that mean he's older?
I wouldn't say that necessarily. And he did give me a little bit of training along the way, and still does. And then spent some time working with state government and with the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, and some time in the National Guard, and found my way home. Though I never moved or left, was able to come back here and work here in local emergency management.
I know we've just finished going through some ice and snow, so I'm sure you have some children. I'm sure they've enjoyed that a little bit.
They have enjoyed the sledding, and we've balanced between kind of watching our community and the roads and transportation issues, and we've been fortunate not to have the power issues, and balancing that with some sledding and some fun with. I have 3 children, and my wife's from Knoxville, but been here many years, and so I have 2 daughters, one in middle school and 4th grader, and then a 1st grade son. So
it's a full job. Todd, how about you? I know you've got deep roots here in the county also.
I do. I've lived here in Franklin all my life. I was born and raised here. My mother, Kay Horton, many of our community knows her from different restaurants that she's worked here locally. And my father, Donnie Horton, was a well-known mechanic here in Franklin, owned his own business in Horton's Auto Repair, and went to the Franklin Special School Districts and the Williamson County Schools, and I'm a product of that environment. Went to local community college here, got an associate's degree in fire service, but most of my experience has come from just being in the business, and just hit 25 years with the City of Franklin Fire Department recently, and I'm just excited to be here on the show.
25 years, Mac, that pretty well answers the first question we had. I don't want to pick on him, but he's getting some gray hair like myself, and Todd's just been a very stable force and someone we can always trust and rely on, and got many good worker bees all over this county, but there's not any better than Todd. He can go to the bank with what he says. A handshake means a lot in this day and time. That's very important. Let's talk about some of our things we're doing in the county. I know we just coming off from unbelievable weather in the month of February and January and March, and it's been cold and rainy and snowy, and some of those services and relationships we have. When I have to go down to the basement here in this building on the administrative complex, and I see 2 familiar faces. There's more. There's several more in there, but you 2 guys are always there watching the monitors, looking at the screen, helping our community get the information out. Why are we doing this?
I think we use the term situational awareness, and it's one of the things that's really difficult in our communities and the way we do most of day-to-day life. Franklin has their list of tasks and residents to serve, and the county has theirs, but when we have that emergency event, those city and county lines kind of disappear. If you're sitting on that road, or if your house is on one side of that line or the other, it doesn't really matter when that emergency happens. And so what we're trying to do is maintain that situational awareness throughout the county, with Franklin and the county, with our other towns, Brentwood and Nolensville and Fairview. And the way to do that is to make sure you have those relationships ahead of time, and then that you sit together through that event. And so the place we do that is in the Emergency Operations Center. And Franklin's a great partner there in helping us both staff that and then share that information as it comes in from all those many people who serve us kind of out on the road, the boots on the ground. We're getting that information from them, and Todd's getting it from Franklin, from the police and fire and that side, and we're getting it from the county side and those other municipalities. And so that partnership and the ability to begin to paint that picture and see what's going on really helps.
Todd, as you're sitting down there over these many years, the excitement always seems to be there with you. I mean, you're always there trying to help your fellow man and women. Let me get that in there before somebody calls. But you're down there on a dedicated basis, late into the night, early in the morning, trying to provide this coordination of services that is required for all of our personnel, from roads and fire and you name it. Does it ever get boring?
It does not get boring. No, this is a passion that most people in emergency services just have. It's a passion that's instilled in them, and it usually lasts throughout their entire career. As a matter of fact, many to decide to retire from this business is a tough decision, and many of them who retire still go on to do this as a volunteer somewhere else. So it's part of our blood. It's part of what we do, and to be able to make a difference in the community really is rewarding, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Over the last several years, your 25 years, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes, a lot of personnel changes. You've seen different mayors, city side, county side, it doesn't matter where. That's the political part. You've seen leadership changes. But I would think over these last several years, and particularly in 10 to 15 years, you've seen a remarkable resurgence of, we've all got to work together because we got limited sources. And for us to be double dipping and paying for this and that in each of our cities, so we've got to figure out solutions. We've got to find ways that make sense for all of us to provide a safer community.
I have never been more excited about the relationships between the county and the city of Franklin, Brentwood, and other municipalities than I am today. And it's something that many of us have dreamed about coming to fruition for a number of years. And I've told Mac not long after he first came here that I'm a little saddened that our relationships are just now starting when I'm getting close to my retirement age. But nevertheless, I hope that I've got many years left to see the results of it. We've had a lot of change in leadership like you're talking about, both in the city and the county and other locations. And many of those people fully understand that partnerships are necessary, and that we have limited resources, as you're talking about, and how can we best share those, and how can we best keep the cost down for the community that we serve and provide the best service possible. And so relationships are everything, and I look forward to being part of the road ahead.
You know, when you think about relationships, we currently are having one going on as we sit and have this show, and out at the Ag Park. And I'll paint a quick picture. August 2014, we had a massive fire. Unfortunate as it was, we had a loss of life, we had a loss of property, we had a loss of a major bridge, an artery that transport across 65 north and south at Paytonsville area. Franklin City, city limits, has a fire station that's up around the Highway 96 and McCatcher. Use the interstate to get off to provide the protection for, and ambulance protection too, for so many people down in that community. And that one that comes to mind is a very large subdivision that's been built in the last 5 to 10 years, Ladd Park. They could no longer just jump on the interstate and fly down and get off and go over for services. So we had to go the back roads. We had to go out Highway 96, had to turn on Arno Road, had to come down Goosey Hill Road, come through. By the time you got there, this was a real problem.
It was a real problem, Mayor. Our response times to that area already exceeded 10 minutes just because of the location and proximity to our station. And when that bridge collapsed, our response times would have increased to 30 minutes or greater had it not been for the partnerships that we have with Williamson County.
And what we don't really realize oftentimes, for you it's a service to provide for the community, to provide not only the fire protection, because most of our homes today are built with products that last a little bit longer. But you've got the medical side of that call also. That community is growing, that whole area. What part of Williamson County is not growing? So to form a relationship between Franklin City and Williamson County, because the county owned the location, just made good sense. Mac?
Definitely, and as that kind of standing on the interstate that morning, talking through the impacts as the initial kind of the fire went out, and TDOT started inspecting the bridges, and we realized that this is even worse than kind of we originally thought, and that this bridge is going to be out for an extended period. Franklin Fire Department was very quick, and Todd and the other leadership were like, we're having an issue, and so by that afternoon. We were able to establish that temporary location at the Ag Center. But what's amazing about that story is not just what happened that morning, but you back up a week and you say the county fair had just happened for 10 days at the same location. And we talked about the timing of that, but if you back up 2 or 3 years, for the previous 3 years and a little more, the county and Franklin have been working the county fair and providing the public safety for the county fair jointly. Sheriff's Department and Franklin police officers walking side by side. Franklin Fire and County EMS and emergency management working together to provide that, and using that event as a joint exercise. And so those joint exercises, things we're doing together, training, building those relationships before the event happened, really begins to pay off, and we just see a tangible result of that in our ability to quickly call you, talk with the Ag Center, work through how do we provide this fire protection, what resources do we have, and there's a county facility there, let's make it available.
And the relationship, as you said here, and you talk about it, and we won't get too deep into this, but most insurance companies use some type of rating service, Todd, to provide the premium base for what they're going to charge that homeowner for the protection on that home. In Franklin, and I'll let you discuss what the rating agencies are, but in Franklin, they have a number that Williamson County unincorporated area, we're a long way from seeing that, long way. But providing that relationship building, and eventually in the next few months, I mean, here we are in early 2015, we're on a temporary station location being built. Eventually a permanent station will be built out at the Ag Center that will benefit many, many, many city residents in reduction of their insurance premiums as time goes on. Want to touch on that?
Yeah, the Insurance Service Office is the company that does that independently. They rate fire departments all across the United States, and Franklin is blessed to have a Class 2 ISO rating. 10 basically means you don't have a recognized fire department according to them. 1 means you have the best level of protection that a community can afford. And they grade us based on the water supply for the area, what the fire department can do, and also the communications end of it. And so we're blessed to have a Class 2 for all areas in the city of Franklin, with the exception of the subdivision that you mentioned, the Ladd Park subdivision. And they are currently outside of 5 miles of the closest fire station, so they're given a Class 10 rating. And we were faced with calls on many occasions from residents there who have either lost insurance, or who can't get insurance, or who are having insurance doubled as a result of that. Before the economy collapsed a few years ago, they were all getting the benefit of the Class 2. But when the economy downturned and people started hurting for money, insurance companies began to look for how can they recoup some of their losses. And so they began going back and really assessing properties were outside of that 5 miles and reclassified many of those properties to a Class 10 rating. So this partnership has afforded us now the ability to put an established fire station in that location. We actually have an ISO grading coming up next month, and it'll take about 2 days for them to evaluate us, but it'll take us about 3 months or more to get the grade. And we fully expect that those residents will see at least a Class 2 rating along with the rest of the city when that happens.
Now let's convert that down to my level. What's that mean in my pocketbook?
That means the difference in what you pay for insurance. And just to use some examples of some homeowners in that area, some were paying about $1,100 a year for insurance prior to our ISO rating. And after they got a Class 10, it jumped to $2,200. Some jumped to close to $3,000. And it really depends on the insurance carrier and what risk they're willing to assume. Wow.
Matt, what is it? I mean, you look at you look at a line that says these are the city limits. just, I mean, inches, it's in the unincorporated area. How do we offer those kind of coverages and protection for those folks in the unincorporated area?
I think that's one of the great opportunities that we have in front of us, is how, as our community continues to grow, do we leverage the relationships, the resources that we have, and still, make it fair and equitable to the taxpayers we serve. And so that's one of the challenges that we're working on. That's one of the things on our list right now, is to determine, how do we do that? How do we make this better and leverage those response resources? Today, right now, if Paytonsville Fire Department or the Rescue Squad or Nolensville or one of our 6 volunteer departments has a need, and they call Franklin or Brentwood or Spring Hill or Fairview, those departments will come. That doesn't help on the insurance side right now, but there may be ways as we move forward to partner together and come up with a way to do, whether that's what they call automatic mutual aid, or just the fact that we can partner together on those larger events, and whether that's a single house fire or something bigger than that, to use those relationships. We're already training together. We're working with Brentwood and Franklin and Fairview to train together with our volunteer firefighters and get them the state required training that's there, and using instructors and sharing those things together. And so there are lots of those things that are already in place, but there's much more work that we can do and move that forward.
And I think it's important too, it's not the unwillingness of Franklin not wanting to provide those services for the folks that live in the unincorporated area. That's not what this is about.
Right.
What it's really all about is the geographic area, the circle you draw around Franklin, those city limits. City taxpayers pay for that service, and to provide that service, that level of service you're talking about, out into an area that hasn't been taxed for those services, takes us back to the Tea Party days of the Boston Tea Party. Not the Tea Party we hear about today, but the Boston Tea Party, that you cannot represent or do things without representation. We've seen that reverse model, and here we've just finished the ice and the snow that our Williamson County Highway Department, that's an unincorporated coverage. It's very confusing to most people, but when those 70 or 80 guys are riding up the road in a county highway truck, red, big sticker on the side, they get to the city limits, they have to stop. Why? The city limits, the folks inside those city limits, whether it's Franklin, Brentwood, Spring Hill, Thompson Station, Nolanville, or Fairview, they don't pay for the services of the county highway department. So they're not allowed to come inside those city limits and work those roads, even though they may have a load full of salt and the graders on the fronts. When they hit the city limits, they have to turn around and go back or go find another road in the unincorporated area. Those are the laws that we've got. That's the taxation issues. And now we have to find solutions to work through all those. Situations like you're describing are available. The solutions are available. It's working through the mechanics of all that and who's going to pay and how do you reimburse. And we will get there, just like we've done on so many of these other things.
Definitely, I think we will. I'm reminded of former Commissioner Judy Hayes, who I have the privilege of encountering out and about as I go through our city. And a couple of years ago, I ran into her at the Ag Center during the Williamson County Fair. And she made it a point to stop me and just thank me for the partnership that she's seen in all of the agencies that were providing for the fair to be the best that it could be. And she's a politician that gets it. And we need to be sure. I think there's not a politician that serves our community that doesn't understand the importance of public safety.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't understand the need for us to work together and to solve solutions the smart way, but also that provides the benefit for the citizens who are paying for certain services. And it's a hard decision sometimes for us to come to, but we need to be in the room talking about those and solving those issues to provide the best service that we can at the lowest cost to all involved.
Well, it's not just fire. It's not just ambulance. We see that. That's every day. But you mentioned early on in this show, you both do, and even in the ISO rating, you got to have good communications. You got to have that network, the systems that are out there. Well, unfortunately, I mean, we've all got cell phones. It doesn't just stop at city and county and state lines. But somebody's got to pay for all that structure out there. And so it's a joint setting down and deciding how can we all participate to make this a better community.
Certainly, and one of the things that we've been able to do through those relationships over the last couple of years is meet together with that public safety emergency services leadership and the city managers and Franklin and Brentwood and the county. And one of the projects that's coming out of that is looking to a one radio system for our community instead of the 2 or 3 or 4 maybe that we're operating right now. One is the current ones don't have enough capacity or space to do what we need, but then it also provides challenges when Franklin and Brentwood or when one of our city departments and county departments respond to the same emergency scene and need to communicate. And there are ways to do that today, but they're limited. They're challenges for our school resource officers, sheriff's deputies working with the city of Franklin or Brentwood and being able to safely operate. And out of that, this joint radio project that's moving forward to expand Franklin's existing system and partner with Nashville and the state of Tennessee in one shared network, really to provide more safety for our community, more safety for our responders is another one of those examples of where those relationships are paying off.
And using that radio system example, it's not just within Williamson County. We have officers every day that go outside of this county to do investigations and to serve subpoenas and do other things. And so this joint radio effort doesn't stop within the bounds of the lines of Williamson County, but it's partnerships with the Metro Nashville and with other municipalities and the Tennessee Highway Patrol to expand our reach and our coverage by using and taking advantage of the system they have in place to marry our systems together and to move forward to give us that level of coverage. Tornadoes that happen in Gallatin and other places, they call our agencies for help for that, and to be able to communicate effectively with ourselves while we're there as well as with those other partners that we provide service to is important. And so this joint effort is really great to see come into fruition.
Well, and as you sit here and think, and the buzzword right now is all about transportation and regional transportation. We've got to find solutions that it doesn't just stop when you're coming down from Davidson County at Old Hickory, and it doesn't just go away. We've got many people in our community and in Franklin and Brentwood and all throughout the points that work in Davidson County. At one time, that number probably hit 80% of the people drove to Davidson County for jobs. Today, that's not necessarily true. It's about a 50-50 split. That as many people are coming into town to Williamson County as are going out. Excuse me, some of those may be going over to Rutherford County. But that's a transportation issue. That's the same thing that you're just talking about. That we've got to find solutions for, and I think we will. We got 5 minutes left. It goes quick. What have I overlooked that you want to touch base on?
I think one of the things that we talk about, and we call it our emergency management program, but on all our public safety and emergency services, is that we really have the same mission. We each have different focus areas, whether that's law enforcement or medical or fire or the emergency management side. But we really have one mission, and we really are one community, and that's the starting point for us collaboratively to work. Sometimes there are boundaries, those tax rules or other things we have to work within and be creative and innovative, and but we want to make sure that we are working together for all of our community, that it really is one community, and that reaches out beyond emergency services into other areas. But I think about I think about the volunteers that spend their time. There are sheriff department reserve deputies who spend their free time supporting the sheriff's department. There are countless men and women who volunteer with our fire departments and the rescue squad and spend their time throughout these ICE events out on the roads responding to calls and accidents and medical calls and those different things. But we're always in need of more of those people. And I think whether you're a resident of Franklin or Brentwood or the city, or you're out in the unincorporated county, those opportunities are there. And it's another way to partner, because what Franklin and Brentwood are doing in helping us train and prepare, other things that come to mind are some of the technical rescue, structural collapse training that Franklin and Brentwood are leading in our community with our volunteers and with Metro Nashville to train together for some of those specialized emergency responses we might have.
Todd, we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm sure I've overlooked something from your perspective.
I'm just going to say we're very fortunate that we're having these discussions prior to the disaster happening. As you've mentioned, we've been through a lot of severe weather this year, a lot of ice and snow conditions, and East Tennessee has been hit much harder than we are, and they're still reeling from the effects of that. We didn't have to deal with that in a manner where partnerships weren't already established. But we've been working really hard to bring these partnerships together and to have these discussions and to try to get these things solved on the front end so that when the disaster strikes, we're ready to go to work and not ready to talk about going to work. So I'm excited to be a part of it, and thank you for having me.
You know, as I hear you two men talk and you look at careers, that there's opportunities out there for our men and women that may be watching this show, or their parents watching this show, their grandparents watching this show. There's always a need for volunteers. There's always a need for that young, new guy or girl that just wants to give back in their community with a great sense of pride, and it is a great sense of enjoyment. How do they get a hold of you guys? Or is there a way to get a hold of you, become a volunteer?
We have an Explorer program in the city of Franklin for young people that they can just simply call our office, or we're on the web. They can Google City of Franklin and find us very easily. The police department has a program as well. We have citizens government academies that our citizens can be involved in to learn more about the services we provide and engage themselves. But I don't want to limit it to just young people.
Well,
there are a lot of people of all ages, many that are retired, who have experience in this line of work that we could greatly benefit from their knowledge and experience, and we encourage them to call us as well.
Definitely. We actually have a link on our website, on the emergency management website, for volunteering, or you can email any of our staff directly if you're interested in volunteering, and we'll try and find you the right place. And I think it's worth noting that both of us started as volunteers. And
that's kind of why I was wrapping up here. You got started that
that's
way.
how, and I had no idea when I signed up as a volunteer firefighter with the Williamson County Rescue Squad that it would turn into a career. And working in emergency services. I knew it was something I was passionate about, but I would love to say I had a long-range plan for that, but it's been great to watch and see how those relationships and that experience has helped me.
Gentlemen, the time has gone by. Probably going to have another show to bring you all back and talk about some of the programs that we've got throughout our county. But before I sign off, let me say thank you for your service, but thank you more specifically for learning to work together again and again and again and try to find these solutions to help hold our taxes down, but above all, make it a better place for all of us to live here in Williamson County. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Mayor.
Matt. Thank you.
I'm Roger Sanderson. We'll see you around the county on another issue at another time. Have a good day.
Hello folks, I'm Bill Fitzgerald with the Franklin Rodeo. The Franklin Noon Rotary Club is supporting Graceworks on Thursday, May 14th at the Franklin Rodeo. We're asking you to come out, bring your groups of 10 or more, get your tickets for $10. The Franklin Noon Rotary Club is proud to present Graceworks with a portion of the proceeds from this year's rodeo. So go on out, get your tickets at franklinrodeo.com and come and support Graceworks.